Assalamu alaikum, everyone, dear brothers and sisters. Welcome to our Islamic parent and live streaming. As every single week, we have one of the topics that interests the Muslim families all over the world. Welcome, everyone, to our fruitful conversation for today. For today, inshallah, we have this super important topics, like one of the super important topics, if I can say, as again we're talking about the relation in between the parent and the child. For the last couple of webinars, we were talking about the the dutiful, like we were talking about dutifulness to parents, like birrul walidain, and what are the things that we should do towards them whatsoever. Then we moved on and we started talking about dutifulness to kids. So, what are the responsibilities that every single parent must have towards their children, whatsoever? And also talked about the rights of children. Every single topic we highlight it through the Quran, through the Sunnah, stories from the past, like our ancestors, like the Sahabas, whatsoever. So we make sure that we actually cover the topic as much as possible, and we try to relate this to our to the real life as much as possible. And today, inshallah, we're gonna keep talking about the very same topic because a lot of our listeners, a lot of you, dear viewers, actually gave a lot of feedback about this one. You said that you want us to talk a little bit more about that. You want us to like highlight these points because that's what every single Muslim parent must know. And for all of our dear viewers, we have this group, as we have a lot of Muslim families, a lot of Muslim parents in our Facebook group, where they can actually discuss like some points related to like raising their children in the way that Allah likes. And for today, inshallah, we have a lot of points to mention with our Imam Hussein. We're gonna get to introduce our Imam, but first we're gonna mention the points that we're gonna talk about for today. Today, inshallah, we're gonna talk about setting priorities regarding raising children. Like, what are the priorities? What are the things that I should work on in the very beginning with my child or on my child? Also, we're gonna talk about a very important point, which is how to help our children to love the Quran, how to motivate them to love the Quran, how to pour the love of Quran into their hearts. How can they memorize the Quran? Not because they have to, but they want to, which is a very important point. And also, we're going to talk about effective strategies to strengthen like the parent-child relation. All the time we talk about like the parent and the child. There must be a relation. Must be a relation. So, what is the relation, and how can we strengthen that? And so we're going to be talking about this, and also we're going to talk about how to like things to avoid saying to our children. I believe there are some points that we shouldn't be saying to our children. So we're going to be talking about this as well. Our webinar today seems to be very interesting. It's super juicy, so I hope all of you, dear listeners, actually enjoy our webinar. And we have our Imam for today, the one that presents the webinar for today. He's our Imam, Hussein Eddin Alam. Assalamu alaikum, Imam, first.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Hope
أخبارك يا أخ
you
محمد؟
have a really great day. So,
الحمد
for
لله.
our dear
Likewise.
listeners, Imam Hussein, he's the head of education in Muslimito Institution. He is a member of Al Azhar Fatwa Global Center, and also he is a lecturer at Faculty of Sharia and Law, Al Azhar University. Imam Hussein, as you do every single time that you enjoy us with your with your points that you mention every single time. So today's topic, as I said in the very beginning, is like super juicy. So I'm gonna just like give you the microphone, and we're gonna just like get like listening to you. We're gonna get started listening to you, basically. Please.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Muhammad. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praises due to Allah the Almighty, the Lord of the world. May Allah's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon His final and last messenger, Muhammad. And may Allah's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you, Sheikh Muhammad, and all the team members at Muslimito and all our dear respected viewers across the globe. Definitely, we have received so many questions uh, regarding the topic that we have tackled in the previous webinar and the previous ones as well. And I'm very happy to see this engagement on the part of our viewers. And it was very insightful and very reflective of how is it Muslim parents are aware that there are many challenges nowadays that are out there, and they need to accumulate the necessary knowledge as to how to deal with all of these challenges and how to effectively raise our children uh, ethically, with noble manners, and how to be productive members in our societies in all parts of the world.
Yeah, especially if the family actually lives in a non-Muslim country. This one is a little bit harder, and I believe that there are more responsibility for the parents, the Muslim parents, if we can say,
Yeah, I have my own
pers
my
perspective about this
own
point.
my own stance when it comes to what a Muslim country is and what is not. And
Yeah,
this is why I have highlighted briefly in all parts of the world, wherever a Muslim family may be, or maybe they may be living, because this is another issue that we can dedicate
yeah,
a
discuss
whole
later. Yeah, yeah, sure,
exactly.
sure.
I mean, as to the characterization or the designation that
Yeah,
we can attribute to a country in particular. But definitely, I see your point, Sheikh Muhammad, on
I
this.
understand.
So my point is, in light of what I have mentioned, there are very important points that we have already highlighted over the previous webinars, and still I'd like to seize this opportunity in order to restate them and to re-emphasize these very important number of points. The first of them is the fact that Islam attaches
Hmm.
great status and significance, and as a matter of fact, a paramount importance to the family. Since the family is the nucleus of the society, as commonly referred to in social realms. This is why we see Islam acknowledges this, and Islam recognizes the importance of the family, the importance of having this healthy
Hmm.
relationship between the father and the mother, and thus the children, and therefore on the society at large.
Exactly. As we mentioned, like this point, to be able to create or build a a very strong community, we need to
In
start with the smallest unit, which is the family. So having a
definitely,
successful Muslim family, this means we're going to have a successful Muslim community, inshallah.
definitely, yes. With that being said, this is why exactly there are a number of points that we need to re-stress, Sheikh Muhammad. The first of
Please.
them is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ,
Nice with
in
this one.
which he says, each guardian is responsible and they will be held accountable for those that they are responsible for. And the hadith clearly mentions how is it both parents are responsible, and the greatest responsibility of the father and the mother or the parents
Hmm.
is definitely the upbringing of the children. With that in mind, I'd like to clearly stress a very, very significant point in this regard, and that's on the day of judgment. your children will not hold you accountable and will not blame you for not bringing them the latest mobile device.
Hmm.
They will not, and you will not, as a parent, be asked about providing them with the most luxurious and or extravagant holiday and the most expensive uh, destinations. Rather, what the parents will be held accountable for is, as the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ clearly states, how successful as a
Mhm.
parent you were regarding instilling the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your child. In how many verses and surahs and parts of the Noble Quran you have managed to successfully assist your child to memorize and to understand and to act accordingly.
Yeah.
So, this is a very important point to keep in mind. And I repeat, many parents, and I have seen this as a reality through my work experience at Al Azhar Fatwa Global Center when it comes to parents and their children. So often, sadly but true, you find that in the back of the mind of uh, both parents or one of them, that all what they feel obliged
Hmm.
to do or to fulfill with regard to their children is just to provide money and to put food on the table. But
Exactly.
they don't care much if their children pray or not, or how many surahs they have memorized and they have understood of the Noble
Yeah.
Quran.
Hmm.
So this is a very important point, and let me here whisper into the ears of both uh, parents. Don't think that being a successful father uh, has to only do with providing materialistic uh, means or possessions to your child.
Hmm.
We can see in many parts of the world how is it as a result of not being fully there for the children and teaching them the morals and the ethics of Islam
Hmm.
and the teachings and ethics that all prophets and messengers came
Alayhi
with.
salatu wassalam.
As a result of this, we see in many parts of the world how is it when the parents reach very old age, they are left alone
Yeah,
by
exactly.
their
That's what.
children.
Hmm.
Why? Because the children only see in their parents
Hmm.
cash machines. And since this materialistic function is over, then there is no need anymore for my parents or to care about them. And this is why the teachings of Islam are very important. When we see how the Quran speaks of the importance of being dutiful to one's parents, this is what is very important and is very vital, even for the parents, because it is these teachings that will instill in your children not just the feel of being obliged to be dutiful uh, towards you as a parent, but rather the love of being dutiful towards you as a parent.
Yeah.
So everything, as it is commonly known, be it sooner or later, it will pay off. So this is why
Hmm.
the fruits of teaching your children the teachings of Islam and the noble Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
alayhi salatu wasalam.
it's all the fruits of these noble teachings will be reaped will by the children, of course, in their life, and also will be reaped by the parents, especially during their old age. And let me mention here, Sheikh Muhammad, a very important hadith, which is an authentic one, and it
Yeah,
was
please.
narrated by Tabarani. In this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ clearly states, أدبوا أبناءكم على ثلاث خصال: حب نبيكم،
Yeah,
وحب آل بيته، وتلاوة القرآن، فإن حفظة القرآن في ظل عرش الرحمن يوم لا ظل إلا ظله مع الأنبياء
yeah,
والأصفياء.
yeah.
So
That's
it
that's that's like that's one of the best hadith I've ever heard in my life, for
Yes,
real.
definitely, and this is why we need to translate it also into
Yeah,
the
please.
meaning into English so that all our dear respected viewers can understand the meaning here. So here the Prophet ﷺ clearly states in a clear and explicit guidance to the parents to
Hmm.
raise and to educate one's children, keeping in mind very important three qualities or three principles. The first of them is the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi
Alayhi
wasallam.
salatu wasalam.
The second of them is the love of the family and the household of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And
Alayhi
the
salatu wasalam.
third of them is tilawat al-Quran. That's to read and to recite and to memorize, and most importantly, to act according to the noble teachings of the Quran. And then the Prophet ﷺ highlights a very important, rewarding aspect, if I may say, when it comes to uh, learning and acting upon the teachings of the Noble Quran, and that's by highlighting that the ones who memorize and act according to the teachings of the Quran, they will be in the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, on the day of judgment, on the day on which there will be no other shade, i.e., other than the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only this, but as a matter of fact, in the company
Hmm.
of the prophets and the messengers and all the pious worshippers of Allah
May
subhanahu wa
Allah,
ta'ala. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among
Allahumma
them,
ameen.
and definitely it's a
May
very
Allah gather us
important.
all.
Amin. Ya Rab. So this is why it's very important. And as I have mentioned, and I cannot stress this enough, there are many rewarding aspects of raising our children on the noble teachings of Islam and the moral ethics of the noble Quran and the authentic guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And most importantly, when parents reach old age, your children will always be so keen to be
Hmm.
there for you and to support you and to assist you, most importantly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a payback for all the noble teachings and all the moral values that you have instilled in them and you have assisted them in educating them and in bringing them out.
So it's not about just like giving them money. It's not about just
Definitely,
like
yes.
being a money machine, as you just mentioned in the very
Yeah,
beginning, but it's all about like educating them
yeah,
and or well educating them and also like
yeah,
giving them all the support they need, all the guidance, all the Islamic information that they actually need to
yeah,
be aware of.
yeah,
Because as you just like mentioned right now, like at the end of the day, are going to be highlighted like they're going to be in this very special place, not because of the money, not because of the brand, the shoe brand that they wear, not because of the
yeah,
food that they actually eat every day, but Or I can say it's just because of the high state that they're in, because of the Quran, because of the educational things that we pour, or like the Islamic things that we pour into their hearts.
Definitely.
SubhanAllah, we all the time have this conversation with the parents that they actually subscribe for the Quran courses here in Muslimito, that I all the time remind them how special the thing they're doing now is, and in the future, inshallah, are going to harvest all the investment that they're doing right now, because at the end of the day, we're going to be having this special highlight, like the special clothes that is going to be made out of light, and so on. So, Imam Hussein, please, what are the other rewards that the Muslims are going to be rewarded with, or uh, the other things that people are going to be rewarded with, inshallah, at the end of the day?
Yeah, definitely. There are many uh, uh, aspects of reward that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Alayhi salatu wasalam.
has highlighted in this regard, and especially when it comes to helping one's children to memorize the Quran and to understand the Quran, and the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And as a matter of fact, there are more than one hadith, more than one statement from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Alayhi salatu
They
wasalam.
they convey the point that when the child, he or she, has memorized the Noble Quran and they act according to it, this will be a reason for the parents to be provided with dignity and honor on the day of judgment.
Hmm.
And this is why the hadith or one of the uh, statements of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Alayhi salatu wasalam.
in this regard, it highlights how is it there is a special outfit, which is the outfit of honor and
Hmm.
dignity, that the parents of the child who memorize the Quran will be provided with on the day of judgment. So this is going to be special for the parents who assist and to help and encourage their children to memorize the Noble Quran and to understand it and to implement its noble teachings in their lives. And
Yeah.
this brings us to a very important point, uh, Sheikh Muhammad, on today's webinar, and that's
Yeah.
how to instill the love of the Noble Quran in the hearts and in the minds of our children. I get this question a lot, Sheikh Muhammad.
Yeah. A lot of times, actually,
You
especially.
cannot imagine, yeah. So repeatedly, so often, the parents they come up with this question, and as always, and as with every beautiful manner that we are encouraged and that we hope and that we aspire to instill in our children,
Hmm.
we as parents we need to be the role models for them.
Hmm.
So
That's
it
nice.
it all comes down to teaching by acting and functioning as a role model. So
Yeah.
the best way, and it is straightforward and clear, is for the parents to practice what they preach. So in
Hmm.
addition to acquiring the knowledge necessary to raise children effectively, the parent themselves, both of them, the father or the mother, they need to make sure that their children don't see, I don't want to say a form of hypocrisy, but
Hmm.
rather I would say a contradiction between what they are instructing their children to do and
Hmm.
what the parents are actually doing. So, speaking of instilling the love of the Noble Quran in the hearts and the minds of our children, it is very important for the children to see the parents themselves reading the Noble Quran
Yeah,
re-
sure.
regularly. And this is why one of the points, and I would say even one of the most effective strategies
Hmm.
that our parents have raised us on
Hmm.
is this weekly gathering of all the family to recite the Quran together and to reflect on the meanings of the Noble Quran together.
Yeah, that's
This
a
is a
very great idea. I like the idea a
exactly
lot. I mean, like there
yes,
are a lot of family actually do this, but like as summarization
yeah,
before you said, like being a role model and also like having this weekly gathering where
gathering
people
for the
actually,
Noble Quran.
yeah, okay,
It has many benefits. It boosts and strengthens and it strengthens the relationship between the spouses definitely, and of course when the children are there, it's a very powerful
yeah,
means to enhance in a very healthy way the relationship between the parents and their children.
yeah, I understand.
So this is a very important point. And again, the essence of uh, the most effective strategy, if I may say, for instilling the love of the Noble Quran in the hearts and the minds of our children is for the parents to show them, show the children in practice how the Noble Quran permeates all their lives. So, for instance, uh, Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, nowadays we have channels and radio stations that
Yeah, a lot of them.
24-hour are streaming the Noble Quran. So
Mm,
it is very wise and it's very rewarding to have these channels on when we are together as a family. So also when we are on the way to uh, a particular place, be it to school. So, for example, when the parents are driving, or when they are in the tube, or when they are in the train or the bus, you can have just with your headphones the Quran and share this with your children and let them see this, that no matter where you are, still you are always keen, for instance, to do your part
mm.
of reading your daily part of reading the Noble Quran. Another important point, now there are many applications that are available, many apps that are available on the mobile phones, on
Also websites I can use as well.
definitely. So all
Do the
of
very
these
same job.
resources,
Hmm.
they just make it very accessible and just add our fingerprints to have access to the Noble Quran and with different uh, uh, reciters and different translations of the meanings of the Noble Quran. So we need to utilize this.
I see. So if we're
Apart
gonna say
from
adding Quran to their daily routine is
exactly
one of the
yes,
things that that will like you're gonna just feel that Quran is a part of their day. It's not just
yeah,
like, oh, like this is our life and this is Quran. No, like Quran, we add Quran to our life. And we're gonna say we can call this the ecosystem, like or the bubble. We're just being in a bubble that we just add Quran to every single thing. Like we have Quran on the car, for example, Quran while we're sleeping, Quran like around the day, around the hour, if you can say, during the day. My parent is reading Quran from time to time. We read Quran, so we start to add this info to the children's mind that Quran isn't just a thing that you do whenever you just like. No, Quran is something that you do every single day, and Quran is something that you do almost
Yes,
all the time. Whenever you do this, things are going to be in the best case ever. Yeah,
definitely.
that's so interesting.
Additionally, it is very helpful to encourage them to lead the prayer, of course, when they are at the proper age, to lead the prayer with the Quran that they have memorized and they have understood. So, this is a very powerful way to connect them with the Quran, and so that they can implement and put into practice and into action what they have learned of the Noble Quran. And another important point is to give them the space after the prayer to share what they have learned
That's
regarding the
nice.
interpretation and the exegesis or the meaning of the verses that they have recited during the prayer.
So you're making
So
that practical as much as possible.
definitely, yes, and definitely it has other very vital benefits, of course, developing in the children the ability to speak up and to share their thoughts and to organize their ideas. Definitely, this is very important for them to be able to do, and of course, it can be
Hmm.
for all children, boys or girls. They can do this with the family.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So,
very
so,
nice.
so there are many points in order to instill the love of the Noble Quran in the minds of our children. Another important point, Sheikh Muhammad,
Yeah, please.
is to connect them with the stories. Uh,
Stories of the Quran. That's very
Definitely,
nice. It's one
the
of the
stories
most
of the
powerful
Noble
things,
Quran,
and
and
especially like
also,
short tafsir as well.
definitely, yes. In addition to the stories of the companions with the Noble Quran, how the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and early pious Muslims, how they lived with the Quran, how the Quran was an integral part or part and parcel of their day-to-day lives. How is it, for example, in connection with what we are talking about now? How is
Hmm.
it, in spite of the fact that the companions were so busy, of course, they had businesses to take care of, and they had families to take care of. But you understand from their life stories that they would take turns or make shifts as to accompanying the Prophet
Hmm.
ﷺ
Alayhi salatu wassalam.
and attending to their day to day duties.
Hmm.
So, for instance, as brothers, one of them would accompany the Prophet ﷺ, while the
Alayhi salatu
other would
wassalam.
go and fulfill their duties. And then, when they meet together during the night, they exchange what they have learned from the Prophet ﷺ.
Alayhi salatu wassalam.
So the first of them, they share what the Prophet ﷺ, he or she, what they learned when they were with the Prophet ﷺ, or when they were in the mosque of the Prophet ﷺ. And the other would do the same. And they would teach and help one another in memorizing and reciting what the Prophet ﷺ
Alayhi salatu wassalam.
has taught them during the day. So you can see now here a very important aspect of the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ.
Alayhi salatu
How is
wassalam.
it, notwithstanding
Hmm.
all the cares of life that they had to take care of, still teaching the Noble Quran to one another,
Hmm.
and before this, learning it directly from the Prophet ﷺ
Alayhi salatu wassalam.
was a paramount priority in their lives. And this is what we need the most nowadays, to understand, to internalize, and to implement, especially, and I repeat, nowadays.
Yeah, I see. So, so can we just like make a summarization to the points that we mentioned right now? Because,
Yes,
mashallah, you mentioned a lot of really important point. If we can actually summarize these points and make them,
yeah,
and just like just give a quick highlight or headline for the points that you mentioned, is
definitely.
going to be amazing. So every
Sure,
single parent can take this as a note, inshallah. So,
sure.
like, you're ready to go, please.
Yeah.
First
So
one.
here we are talking about how to instill or to implant the love of the Noble Quran in the hearts and the minds of our children.
Yeah.
The very first golden rule is
Yes.
for the parents to be the role models for their children. So they see that when the parents woke up, they woke up for Fajr and they recite the Noble Quran.
Yeah.
Number two is to
Because
utilize,
children repeat. So first of
definitely,
all, you read the Quran, so your children are gonna read the Quran. Number two,
definitely utilize all the technological means available to recite the Noble Quran and to learn the Noble Quran and to share this with your children.
having the ecosystem or the bubble thingy, like Quran is every single where. Amazing. Number
Yes,
three,
to surround them with the Noble Quran.
exactly,
Number three is to connect the children with the stories of the Noble Quran.
exactly.
Number four is to enlighten the children regarding the stories of the Prophet ﷺ and the
So Salim.
companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the early Muslim scholars and the pious predecessors of the Muslims with the Noble Quran, how they lived the Noble Quran, and how they were always keen to learn the Quran and to live the Quran.
Having this Islamic background, if I can say,
Definitely.
and the last point, as you
Is
mentioned,
to
that
let them lead the prayer and to recite the Quran that they have memorized and give them the space following the prayer to share their thoughts and what they have learned and what they have understood with regards to the meanings of the Noble Quran.
yeah, and another point that I mentioned as well, having this weekly meeting where
Yeah,
we can just like
where
talk about
all the
Quran, or
family,
maybe we make a halaqa, like everybody
definitely.
reads a part, so we just
Yeah,
have like six points, and
yes,
also I can add like the dua as well. It
sure,
makes a lot of change,
yes,
um, and yeah, inshallah, this is gonna work a lot. And also, if you can add Ryan, just like remind them of the great position we're going to be in at the end of the
yeah,
day, and how Quran will maybe you can mention how precious the Quran is, and how unique is,
yes,
like how the person is unique whenever he gets to memorize the Quran, or whenever he
yeah,
gets to like know the Quran whatsoever. That's another important point to mention. So yeah, moving on, brother. We can move on to the next point, which is, the strategies, or the things that could, strengthen the parent-children relation. I
definitely,
believe that a
yes.
lot of people have a problem with this one, but Shah are gonna tell us how to do
Definitely,
so.
there are many challenges and there are many questions regarding this point in particular. And this is why here I have uh, put together at least seven points or strategies, if you like,
Yeah, please.
of how to enhance and to build and to maintain a healthy parent-child relationship. At the very outset, I'd like to highlight a very important point in this regard, Sheikh Muhammad,
Yeah, please.
and that's the fact that how healthy a relationship is, or the extent to which a relationship is healthy and strong, depends essentially on how emotions are communicated. I
Hmm. So
repeat,
we're talking again about emotions.
definitely
Yeah, please repeat.
taking, yeah, to put it again,
Yeah, please.
how healthy and how strong a relationship is depends by far to a great extent on how emotions are communicated and are reciprocated even.
Hmm.
This is why the very first point that I'd like to share with our dear respected viewers and listeners here is physical affection. It is very important to have this physical contact between the parent and the child.
Hmm.
Not only when the children are kids and they are very young, but
Yeah.
even as both the parents and the children get older, still this physical connection of hugging and embracing each other is very important for both of them. And we can find this aspect and this uh, subtle meaning in the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Alayhi
How is
salatu
it?
wasalam.
How is it? For example, we learn when we read the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that
Alayhi salatu wasalam.
when the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Fatima, peace be upon her, whenever she would come to him, he would stand up and he would kiss her head and he would let her sit where he sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Alayhi salatu
was
wasalam.
sitting.
Hmm.
In another
That's really
incident,
nice and beautiful.
definitely, and in another incident, we learn that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he used to embrace and to kiss his grandchildren, Al Hassan and Al Hussein, peace be upon both of them. To the extent, and we have highlighted this story in our previous webinar, a man saw the Prophet ﷺ kissing his grandchildren, Al Hassan and Al Hussein. May Allah be pleased and may Allah's peace and
Allahumma ameen.
blessings be upon both of them. And he said, like in a very astonished way, or being astonished, I mean, that you kiss your children as if he's saying it in a disapproving manner. And he went on to say, I have 10 children and I have never even kissed any of them.
Yeah.
And at this point, the
Which is
Prophet sallallahu.
disappointing, to be honest.
You see, and this is why at this point, or upon hearing this, the Prophet ﷺ says, what shall I do if you have no mercy left in your heart? I.e., it is an expression of mercy and compassion to have this physical affection with one's children, and therefore more uh, rightly this physical affection between the children and the parents.
Yeah,
So
like everyone say that this physical affection will lead to more love and
yeah,
emotions are gonna be increased. Like personally, I know this and have
yeah,
experienced this as well. That physical, the way of expressing your love in a physical way actually
yeah,
really leads to a really great results. Like
definitely.
personally, one of the things that I try to do all the day, that let's say that I'm about to leave and go
Yeah,
somewhere, so I just
yeah,
like try to kiss like my mother's like head, maybe a hug or something.
yes,
um like personally for me, I get this support, if you can say. I
definitely.
get this, like less this energy. I don't know what do we call this, but there's an energy like comes over here, and also there's an energy like derived as well to her, and so on. So like if you're a kid, or an adult or anything, this will change a lot, whether toward the parent side or in the parent side or in the kids side.
Definitely,
Okay.
and as a matter of fact, with regard to this point, Sheikh Muhammad, we have, as a matter of fact, scientific literature that exhibits that physical contact is important for good health.
Yeah.
So, be it between the spouses, be it between the parents and their children, definitely it is very important for good health. Definitely, yes. And we have this, as a matter of fact, supported by many sources of science and scientific literature.
Yeah, and also like science supports this as physical
Definitely,
gestures actually reduce stress and promote happy hormones, like
definitely,
hugging so whatsoever. This is like
definitely, yeah,
super effective
yes,
um, when it comes to the side of like whether
yes,
parent or like the family itself. And
yes,
for this one, like let's highlight this one, like please, and let's stress on this one because like so many families have a problem with this, as there are some kinds of people that cannot actually, show their love through, like physical ways. Like for example, I love you, you love me, but like let's say that like I have a son, for example, I love him, he loves me, but I cannot express my love, or I do not express my love by like giving him a hug or something like this. So
yes,
if you're a parent that has this issue, please try to work on it. So even if you do not like this a lot, maybe you can just try to give this emotional support to your children, especially if they're like girls or females,
yeah,
because like in a specific time they just need this support that comes out
yes,
of the family, so they do not just like try to get the support out of
yeah,
some other place, I can say.
yeah.
And subhanallah, the
So,
prophet as well used to do
yeah,
this.
yes, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was number one. Moving to number two, which is
You said that we have seven, right? Six or seven?
seven, as a matter of
Seven,
fact.
that's
Yeah,
amazing. So
yeah,
everyone done.
and I see that we have only 10 minutes left, and
Yeah.
maybe we will need to dedicate a third part, or we will see what needs to
uh,
be done with this. So moving swiftly to the second point here, and that's make sure that you set the atmosphere for having a quality time, and that's by turning off any technological devices during parent child interaction.
hmm,
Nowadays, we are bombarded and heavily surrounded by technological devices, mobile phones, tablets, laptops, TV, etc., etc. This is ruining. This is one thing that can ruin, and it is something that can be very detrimental to a healthy one on one contact or interaction between the child and the parent.
hmm,
Thus, it is very vital to have a healthy interaction to avoid all of this, and as I said, to set the right atmosphere for a healthy interaction between the children and the parents.
yeah.
And we have this aspect, as a matter of fact, highlighted in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Alayhi
as
salatu wassalam.
when anyone would describe how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam
Alayhi
would
salatu wassalam.
deal with anyone when they would meet the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you always commonly uh, read that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would wholly turn towards them.
Hmm,
So he would not be talking to someone, just looking to them by his side, or just by turning one side.
hmm.
Rather, we read in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and
Alayhi
definitely
salatu
this is a
wassalam.
very important, noble manner, and it's a very vital ethical practice that when anyone talks with with one of us, we need to wholly pay attention to them, but differently, especially when it comes to parent-child relationship. It would not be healthy to have the phone on between their hands and then talking to the child. Definitely, the connection is ruined here, and it is
Yeah, there's a block in there.
definitely there is
Like, I love
discrepancy.
you,
Yeah,
father, but I don't like your
yeah,
phone
but at
because
the same
that
time,
distracts our time.
definitely, and I'm texting
Exactly.
or busy texting someone else. So this is why, and it is very vital for a healthy parent-child relationship to set the atmosphere for a healthy interaction. With that
Okay.
being said, let's move to the third point here, and that's to set aside the time to make quality one-on-one time with your children, and
Hmm.
the same applies on the part of the children. They need to set aside the time in order to spend quality time with their parents.
So it's
So
like
it can
family time.
exactly, and
No
it has to be
interruptions, no mobile phones,
exactly,
no
yes,
other activities we do. Just like sitting together and we just like do
yes,
our chat. Okay, that's good.
definitely. And it's a given that due to today's hustle and bustle and all of these uh, demanding uh, life cares, that we as a matter of fact, we find it hard. It is as a matter of fact difficult to find this, but still, in
Back to the
obedience
life.
to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an act of worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm talking here especially to the children, as an in obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as an act of worship, you need to do this. So it can just be by setting aside 15 minutes to spend them with your parents. If not one on one, at least over the phone or over any uh, technological means to
Yeah.
achieve this. Or it can be by spending the weekend with them, or at least having a meal with them during the weekend. But the point is to set the time in order to spend quality time that brings together the children and the parents.
Yeah.
Number four is, and this is definitely a very important point,
Which is
again in view of all the demanding circumstances of life, and that's to connect before transitions or large decision making.
hmm.
So in very practical terms, if there is a very crucial decision like moving from one city to another
Yeah.
or from one country to another,
Hmm.
this needs
Engage them as well.
exactly, definitely, to engage them in the process, and the and especially the decision making process, and to connect deeply, so that there is a healthy atmosphere that supports the the the, the ease of implementing this decision and the process of moving.
Yeah, I see.
You see, so in order to facilitate this movement from one place to another, or this transition, there needs to be the time that is taken in order to make it smooth, in order to make it flow in a way that attends to all the needs of the family and all what is necessary in order to ensure that there will be no negative impact resulting from such a decision.
Yeah,
Another important point here
please.
is to encourage emotions instead of shutting them out.
Hmm.
This is very vital, and this is very important because we need to understand that our children have emotions and they have feelings. So it is very important to be attentive to them, not to ignore them, not to turn a blind eye to them, not to turn a deaf ear to them, rather to embrace them, acknowledge them, and thus address them and deal with them in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And again, and as I have mentioned in the previous webinar, because if you don't provide such safe space to your children, they
Hmm.
will look for it somewhere else,
Exactly,
and
for sure.
and
That is
then
one of the
definitely there
messes.
will be repercussions, there will be ramifications, and definitely we need to avoid all of this.
Yeah.
I am aware that we already have run out
Uh,
of time.
yeah, I don't know how this thingy happens every time, but I don't know. We just
But
like
still,
start
times
then.
fly.
Yeah, I just noticed that an
Sure.
hour like passed, which is like
Yeah.
super quick. So how many points left,
Yeah.
Imam, for this point?
I still have here 3 points more, and we need to talk about things that the parents need to avoid when they speak with their children. Of course, there are many other points, but
Yeah.
inshallah, we can highlight this in the upcoming webinar or in the
Yeah,
very near
inshallah.
future, inshallah.
Thank you, Imam Hussein, for this fruitful
Likewise.
conversation for real, and thank you
Likewise.
for picking these like interesting topics because for a
Likewise.
lot of Muslim families, they really need to know
Alhamdulillah.
how to strengthen their relation with
Definitely.
their kids, or maybe they just take care or pay attention to every single worldly matter, but whenever it comes to that, like in Arabic we say tarbiyah Qur'aniyya, we can say, which is like
Yes,
Quranic.
education in light of the Noble Quran.
Yeah, exactly. So whenever a parent gets to do this, things
Yeah,
is gonna be way much better, inshallah.
sure.
So for all of our dear viewers, today we had a quick overview about the relation between the parent and the children, and we also highlighted that our children have their own rights, and every single parent must pay attention to their rights. We talked about the priorities regarding raising the children. We mentioned them. We talked about them, highlighted points whatsoever, and also talked about a very important one, which is how to help our children to love the Quran. We talked about seven points, and we also like added more, but we didn't get to count them. But 7 points mainly. How can we push our children to love the Quran? How can we pour the
Yes,
love of Quran into our children's hearts, I can say? And we couldn't get to finish the 7 points that you have for today, which are related to the ways of strengthening the relation in between the parent and the child, how to have a stronger parent-child relation. We just got four for today. Inshallah, we're gonna get to have, I mean, like 5 points. I mean, and inshallah, by the next time, we're gonna get to have the rest of them. Um, Thank you, Imam Hussein, for this
likewise,
like
Sheikh Muhammad.
fruitful conversation. So, by the next time,
Likewise.
we're gonna get to continue that, and by the next time, sure, we're gonna talk about things to avoid
Yeah,
saying to our children, so we make sure that
yeah,
like they do not have a future problem or something.
inshallah.
So for all of our dear viewers, that's everything for today. You can actually follow our Facebook page as we go live every single Thursday, as we have one of the topics that actually interests. That actually interests us on like all the Muslim families of all over the world. And if you have any recommendations or something, if you have any ideas, if you'd like us to talk about a specific like topic or something, please make sure that you contact us on the messages on Facebook as you all the time do. And we're so glad of the reactions that we get and also the engagement that we get all the time. And we're really happy because of the the comments and the feedback that we get all the time on this webinar. Inshallah, we're going to be adding a lot, so you can get to follow our page and also join our group every single Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Wait for our Islamic parent live streaming, and also you can get your Quran checked really quick every single Friday at 6 p.m. as well, where you can join the Quran clinic as one of our teachers, one of our shaykhs can get to give you a feedback on your recitation, and all of these activities we do them totally for free. That's all, everyone, for today. If you have any question, please make sure that you leave it on the comment. And if you have a special way that you do with your children, if you deal with them in specific way, if you do like specific actions, so you can get to like pour the love into their hearts, or even strengthen the relation between like you and them, like mainly the points of today's stream, please make sure that you add them in the comment. We highly appreciate this. Inshallah, we're going to get to see you in the next time. Have a great time. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.